Hey everyone, I am your astrologer, Wonder Girl, taking you to new heights. Here is your daily forecast for the day of Saturday, June 23rd, 2018. Now what we've got going on today is the moon hanging out right here in Scorpio. And the moon's in Scorpio, it brings our attention to some deep feelings that we have hidden deep beneath the surface. Also to figuring out what we really feel, what we truly and deeply desire in life. Also, when the moon's in Scorpio, you'll get dealing with money as well, paying off debts, too, and also kind of dealing with your deepest, most intimate romantic or sexual relationships as well. Sometimes business partners also fall into Scorpio too. So that's going to set the tone for what's going on today. Now at 1 a.m. Mountain Time, so very early this morning, this moon in Scorpio is going to square the nodal axis. Okay, and that's what that's going to do, is it's going to make this moon in Scorpio super important. I like to think when planets square the nodal axis, it's almost saying you cannot move forward, you cannot do the things you're meant to do. In this case, with Venus on the North Node, you cannot do what your heart is calling you to do unless you figure out this thing first. Okay, and what's going to be super important for this moon in Scorpio is figuring out what you really, really want. It's like before you can move forward, before you can take the next step today, this moon in Scorpio is going to say you have to deeply examine what it is you deeply desire, what it is you really want, what it is you're really feeling, having to get to the bottom of the matter. And then once you figure that out, it will help you to move forward, okay? Or at least to feel better as you move forward, all right? I definitely think that's going to be important because at the same time that this moon in Scorpio squares the nodes at 1 a.m. Mountain Time, it's also going to sextile Saturn and Capricorn. So again, I feel like once we figure out what we deeply desire, what we want in life, maybe as well with Scorpio, how we can organize our finances, work better with some our deep and intimate relationships, then it's going to help us do the Saturn thing, to feel like we're putting our life in the right place, to create boundaries and structures in our life that can support what it is that we really want. That can really help us achieve the things that are really deeply important to us, okay? So I think that's going to go on at 1 a.m. All right, then at 6 a.m. Mountain Time, a few hours later, we come into a little bit more of a challenging spot. That's because at 6 a.m. Mountain Time, this moon in Scorpio is then going to square Mars. I think what goes on is we start to figure out, hopefully, more and more of what it is that we really do want and desire. But with the square to Mars, maybe we don't know how to act on some of these things that it is that we really want. Especially with Mars stationing, about to go retrograde on the South Node, not in like my favorite spot. I think that's hard, is like we have so many deep desires and it's like, well, how do we do these things that we really, really feel? We know we need to put structures and boundaries in place. We know that focusing on what we really want is going to help us to put our life in the right place, but maybe it's just translating all of that into action and into passion is then the hard part, especially with Mars on the South Node in Aquarius. Maybe we want to detach a little bit from life. Maybe we're still dealing with some things from the past that we're trying to tie up, and that's really, really hard because we have these really strong feelings that we have that need to be addressed. But when it comes to doing things, we're like detaching from these feelings. We're doing things that aren't in alignment with what we really feel, you know, or we're taking care of old things that aren't supporting the thing that we ultimately really want to create. That could happen at 6 a.m. And I think a lot of it, especially, I know I've been saying this like in almost all my readings, but especially with Mars in the South Node, I think patience is important. If you're feeling frustrated when it comes to doing things and getting the things that are important to you done, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just it might take a little bit longer under this kind of astrological climate to do. It may take a little bit more patience, for sure. I think the struggle is really how to do the things that are on your heart without getting too weighed down by all your feelings and emotions. You know, it's like in order to do the things we really want, we have to almost detach from what we're feeling in order to get them done, so that we don't get lost in all of this emotion. And we also have to tie up some things from the past, purge the past a little bit before we can start to embark on some of our desires. So I definitely feel that struggle coming in a little bit at 6 a.m. Okay, needing to take care of the past before you can fully let more of your desire come into the picture. Okay, and needing to not get so caught up in some feelings that you may have in the process, to let maybe take a step back for a second to get a better or another perspective on what's going on. Then a few hours later, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, the moon's going to move further through Scorpio, and then it's going to come into a square with Venus. Okay, which can also be a little bit difficult. Bringing up maybe some hard things with relationships. Could also bring up some hard things again with money and finances. And if you want to consider Venus ruling what we find beautiful in life and what we find comfortable, luxurious, in a way, we cannot be feeling super comfortable, luxurious at that time. We may have to change some of our relationships or make some adjustments with what's going on, especially with moon being in Scorpio, the sign of deep change. Okay, so we may have to change our money, change our financial situations, change some of our relationships in order for us to feel better. We may also have to change our sense of comfort, what we find beautiful, how we think of comfort, of security in life. Considering Venus also rules Taurus, we're having to readjust that, or at least deal with some of the discomfort in the meantime in order for us to do more of what it is that we want. Okay? That could be difficult. And I think, yeah, this is just a little bit of a tough alignment. Because at 6 a.m. with the square to Mars, we have these deep feelings, but we don't know what to do with them because we're too attached to deep feelings, have so many things from the past going on that we need to learn to make sense of, to let go of, to detach from some of our feelings. And then we get to 10 a.m. with the square to Venus, and we're not feeling quite comfortable. We're feeling like it's hard for us to let our heart show, again, because we're being deep. Maybe it's hard for us to work with relationships because we have so many feelings going on. Okay, and really just needing to work kind of all of that out. All right, with this being a T-square, because Mars and Venus are opposite each other, I think the focus definitely is on what you really want. If you're finding any struggle today, I think the first thing to think about, and I think I've mentioned this enough in this reading, especially with the moon in the square with the nodes today, but I think the main question of today, if you're struggling figuring out how to do the things that you want, if it's hard for you to feel comfortable in life, letting your heart show, I think the best thing you can do today is to just focus for a second with the T-square. And whenever I see a T-square, to me, it's usually the planet at the tip of the T-square. That's the most important, like the big arrow pointing there. The one most important thing you can do today if you're having problems is figure out, what do I really, really want? If there's one thing I could do today, what would that be? And then sit with that for a second, figure that out. And then I think once you figure that out and go deep enough to figure out what that really is, to uncover all of the roadblocks that are inside you, I think then that will help you to say, okay, now that this is what I really want, here's what I need to do to accomplish this. Here's what I need to remove from my vision, remove from my way, remove from the past so that I can do this thing. And then once you figure that out with the square to Mars, then you can think about the square to Venus and say, okay, now that I've removed some things, now that I know what I really want and figured out what I needed to clear out, now let me focus on how I can bring more of the comfort in, how I can feel much happier doing this, how I can feel much better, how I can let my heart truly show in a more lighthearted way, in a more playful way, in the process of me doing something that's really, really deep and intense that I feel really strongly about. And I think that's just going to be the important thing for today, okay? The good news is that once we get past that spot at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, so it's going to be very early for me, but once we get past that spot, the day actually gets much better, all right? Yeah, and we're dealing with less stuff because the alignment that's going to be triggered very early this morning, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, is going to be like straight into, I don't want to say our issues, but it's going to be straight into the stuff that we've been dealing with that's been hard for us. This Venus-Mars opposition for the past week or two, like this moon is going to be triggering all of that stuff in the past few weeks, saying, okay, you got to deal with it. You got to face it, like head on. You got to figure this out and try to find ways to make it work, try to find the path to move forward. And once we do that, then the day gets a lot easier. Okay, that's where my train of thought was originally going. That's because at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, after this stressful aspect, the moon then comes on top of Jupiter. And that is really pretty. I love moon-Jupiter days. Jupiter is like one of my favorite planets in general, so I really like it. And I think what this brings at 2 p.m. is a chance for you to get more understanding on what you're feeling, understanding your emotions, making sense of what's going on inside you. I like to think in a more positive kind of way. Okay, I also like to think of Jupiter as an optimistic kind of sign. Maybe now that you've done some of the hard stuff or the deep soul searching, all of a sudden the optimism comes. Oh, okay, now I get what it was all for. Now I get what I need. Sometimes too, with Jupiter, I like to think you can get like big emotional expressions, hopefully joyful ones in this kind of arrangement. Because I was like, sometimes Moon Jupiter, they feel things very strongly for better or for worse when you see that in a natal chart, and everyone has to know. But I like to think this will be positive. Hopefully it'll bring more of the optimism back. Hopefully as well with the moon on top of Jupiter, it will help you do new things, find more of the excitement, try things you haven't done before in order to find the solutions to some of the things that came up earlier. All right, so I see that there. And then the next and last aspect of the day will be at 9 p.m. Mountain Time, a few hours later, when the moon will come off of Jupiter and trine Neptune. And again, I really like that as well, because I think Neptune brings a lot of peace, especially by trines. They're both water signs. It can bring confusion, but I like to think today it will bring more peace. It will bring more sense of inner wholeness. It will bring more comfort internally about what you need, about how you can overcome the past, especially with Mars in the South Node that you were working out earlier, or we were working out earlier. I think you get insight on how to overcome the past so that you can feel better, feel more whole, figure out who you really are inside, and start to do some of the things or make some really positive changes to do more of what it is that you really want and to feel better about it all. Okay, so that's what I see going on there. And then I even like what's going on tomorrow morning too. 4 a.m. I was like, we got a sextile to Pluto, a trine to Mercury tomorrow morning, to I think really helping us to move forward on what we want, to change our life in a positive way, to bring more of what we deeply desire in, and to communicate about those things in a good way. So I do like the end of today and a little bit into tomorrow. It's just dealing with the stuff at the beginning part of the day, around 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. Mountain Time. Figuring out what you really want and figuring out how you can move forward on that, which could be a little hard. Again, having to clear stuff out from the past, having to detach a little bit from some of your desires in order to do that. And then once you've done that, having to figure out how to be happy doing the things you really want and be more lighthearted and playful and joyful, having fun as you do the things that really resonate with you, okay? So that's what I'll leave with you there. Other stuff going on in the background. What we have, the sun and Cancer. Okay, so when the sun's in Cancer, we're thinking a lot about our emotions, what's going on with us emotionally, how we can feel more comfortable emotionally in our life, also how we can build more roots, bring more stability into our life. Considering Cancer also rules our home and family, feel more grounded. Okay, with the sun in a sextile with Uranus, I think we are getting insights on what we need to feel more comfortable in life, more secure, more grounded, more stable, more confident, to use more of our talents. But with the sun in a square with Chiron, perhaps once we get those insights, again, we don't know how to do. I think I've talked about about that a lot today and in my other horoscopes. But the hard part is, okay, how do we do this? Now that we're feeling comfortable, or now that we know what we need to feel better, well, how do we do it? What do we do? What do we have to sacrifice in order to get the things that we need to feel comfortable? Okay, that could be a little bit difficult, bringing up some hurt feelings. Okay. Let's see. And it's okay if things are uncomfortable, you know, things don't have to be happy all the time. Things don't always have to feel great in order to be productive. Then we've also got Mercury in an opposition with Pluto today, as you can see it in this chart too, bringing up again some very intense and serious conversations, either with yourself or with other people. Sometimes may not be the easiest with Pluto involved. I mean, these are conversations about things that are like on your heart and mind, triggering fears, triggering insecurities, talking about your fears, talking about your insecurities, talking about your emotions, thinking about things that you don't normally talk and think about, especially not in front of an audience, especially not in front of other people. So there's a lot of that stuff that could come to the forefront today. as you're trying to figure out what you really want in your life. Again, going deep, thinking more deeply, digging up some fears and insecurities, having to change your perspective on life, change the way you talk, the way you think and communicate about your life, about where your life is going, in order for you to feel more comfortable in life and bring more of what really resonates with you deep down into it. All right. Again, I don't know, did I just say this? Again, Pluto can bring renegotiating your resources, your time, your money, your relationships in order for you to feel better. All right, we also do have Venus here in the North Node. So again, having to listen to your heart as things happen. You know, I do like to think with Venus on the North Node and with Mars on the South Node, things may not be happening exactly in the way that we want them to happen, but I like to think they are happening exactly in the way that they should. And really needing to trust that and to have faith that things are unfolding in the way that they need to at this time, needing to trust the things that happen to you and to go with them, to go with the flow instead of to fight against them, whatever it is that's occurring in your life. Okay, and understanding that whatever is happening for you has a message about where you are meant to go next, about where you're being called to next, for sure. Okay, a lot of these things that are fated or destined to happen that we may not have as much control over are going to have to do again with your relationships, with your money, with your value systems, and just with your heart. Of course, with Venus and Leo involved. You have to listen to what your heart is calling you to do. If things aren't happening in the way that you wanted them to happen, it's because, again, your heart is calling you in another direction, and it's just a matter of listening to what that direction is and not letting everything else cloud up your perception or your view of it. Even if with Sun in a square to Chiron there are some insecurities, we're heard about some things, you know, that are going on. Okay, so there's that. Yeah, I was like, I already talked a lot about Mars in the North and the South Node, dealing with things from the past, feeling a little bit frustrated as we're figuring things out. Okay. Yeah, and then Venus in an opposition with Mars, which was a big thing I talked about today with the moon squaring this spot. It's kind of hard because it's like we want to do one thing, but our heart wants another. Okay, and especially with Mars in the South Node, needing to not do things out of fear, insecurity, out of worry that you're not doing enough or doing the right things, needing to be okay with not doing enough right now so that other things can come to you that are meant to come to you, or leave you that are meant to not be with you at this point of your life anymore. Okay. So that's what I'll leave you with. Now your card for the day is the Knight of Cups reversed. Someone said I pull more reverse cards than like any other person in the comments yesterday. And I'm like, I know, I do pull a lot of reverse cards. I don't know why. I mean, I do reverse them when I shuffle them and like reverse half the deck. But I did look through a few of them today because I was like, are most of these cards reversed? And there are actually quite a few of them that are upright. It's just I never pull the upright ones. So there are some that are upright in this deck right now if I were to flip through them, but I just, yeah, I don't know why. They just never make it to my hands. Maybe they will one day. But this is what we've got for today, the Knight of Cups. Sometimes the Knight of Cups gets lost in illusions, in things that aren't true, or in abstractions with this Knight of Cups, and like romantic ideas. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being creative, with letting your mind wander, being romantic. But sometimes you gotta take the rose-colored glasses off. Sometimes you gotta have practical strategies to support your romanticisms, your creative inspirations, whatever your heart's saying. You know, and I think that's a lot of what's going on today. Time to be realistic, especially with Uranus and Taurus. Time to be realistic about your resources, realistic about what you have, realistic about what you want, and to move towards some of your desires based from where you are now, and not where you wish you were, and not where you will be 5 months from now, but where are you right now, and how can you organize your resources in order to make your dreams a reality. It's not just about living in an illusion, but it's about living the life you dreamed of every day and figuring out how to make that happen from right here where you are in this moment. All right, could feel a little bit not the way we want, you know. You get a Cups card reversed again. Emotionally, things may not be there emotionally, we may not be feeling quite right emotionally, not feel like we have the emotional needs that we want met. but needing to maybe sacrifice some of that feeling. If you feel like your emotional needs aren't met, maybe needing to sacrifice some of that right now so that you can actively build it back in the process, you know? If some of you are feeling a little emotionally out of sorts, I think the point is to start doing the work that you need so that at another time you can have the life you've dreamed of and to feel better, okay? And I think now we're just trying again with Mars in the South Node to clear out all the junk we don't need anymore. And to slowly, bit by bit, even if it takes some time, build a new life, a new foundation, birthing the new age. I think I've been seeing that a lot lately, and like there's like some star configuration. I don't really know much about like numerology or the gateways, but I think I like saw an article on Facebook about some star configuration, and I got a new oracle deck, and there's also a card called Birthing the New Age, but that I really like. But I think, yeah, I really do think it's all about like birthing our new lives, like a new way of thinking of ourselves, of what we desire, of what's on our hearts, and it's a matter of clearing out the past and making the small efforts that we can to build the emotional comfort back into our lives eventually. All right, so that's what I've got for you today. Thank you so much for watching my horoscope. If you like it, please like it on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, and I will talk to you later.